So I was watching Birdman's terrible MCU video. I mean, I really can't believe people take this idiot seriously. He's so bad I actually wonder if it's not just some elaborate spoof of woke YouTubers. Which is funny because this is the guy who says he's unbiased, apolitical, and only cares about facts and logic. But it's one thing to be a hack. One thing to be a salty little loser. It's one thing to take that further and say drinkers should be demonetized for making fun of Pedro Pascal. But let me show you a bit of Birdman's video to set up the context, before the delicate flower reveals what a giant pussy he is.
Maybe, after a quarter of a century of failed attempts, someone might actually do justice to the Fantastic Four. But leave it to Marvel to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. The problem started out small at first, like the casting of Reed Richards, which turned out to be trickier than expected. Apparently, the studio approached at least 3 other actors to play Reed, and they all turned it down. But why would they do such a thing? Who in their right mind would turn their back on a leading role in a big-budget Marvel movie with a huge paycheck at the end of it? Well, if I was a cynical man, I'd say it's because they wrote Reed to be a weak, cowardly pussy who gets bossed around by his far more powerful and assertive wife for most of the movie, and the leading men of Hollywood are getting almost as tired of playing characters like that as we are of watching them.
What the fuck are you waffling about? There's so much wrong here, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, saying they wrote Reed as a cowardly pussy makes zero sense as the film isn't even out yet and we have barely any interactions between the team from the marketing material. How would you know this? This is clearly a made-up issue that you just invented out of thin air.
And then, last week, we began to hear reports of a test screening for the latest cut of the movie, where major details of both the plot and the ending were leaked. A test screening that basically confirmed everyone's suspicions.
How do I want to phrase this? Even though it's a team of 1 woman and 3 guys, I think that you're going to have a situation at the end of the movie where it's women who save the day. And you're like, why? Can't Reed at least be involved? You know, you're like, come on, man. You know, like, come on.
Eloquently phrased as always, Grace. Good job. I mean, if even one of the biggest Marvel shows on the planet is calling out your movie for being too girl bossy, you know you've got fucking problems.
Or, and I know this might be hard for you to believe, she's giving her honest thoughts on a media property and isn't trying to sway people with lies, deceptive editing, and political dog whistles. You know, a film critic. It's entirely possible to criticize Marvel movies and not be a moronic political mouthpiece. What a concept. You should try it out sometime.
Grace Randolph has stated that she will no longer watch Last of Us. She doesn't wish to give negative reviews to a project with lesbian leads.
What?
Okay, so The Last of Us. Oh, man. What a show. Really, one of the greatest shows that I think HBO has ever had. This The Last of Us situation took up a lot of my emotional bandwidth. You know, it was as horrible as I thought it would be talking about it online. And that was one of the reasons that I decided not to cover it. And you know, I've seen people bring up the Red Wedding. I would say that killing Joel is not like killing Ned Stark. I really have loved the fact that The Last of Us has the game and now the show have had such wonderful female and LGBTQ characters. So that's been one of the things that I've loved so much. So now that I think that the show is doing those characters a disservice, I don't want to contribute towards any negativity or have my commentary misconstrued to be made to look even more negative. And so that is another reason that I chose not to continue to cover this show. Because I did not want to add to the negativity surrounding these characters and this talent. And because I became nervous as to how...
Hey, be careful, guys. There's some PC babies over there.
But then, like a knight in rainbow-coloured armour, a saviour arrived to take up the mantle.
So just blatant homophobia now? I mean, we already knew you were a bigot, but what I want to know is how the fuck are you still monetized on YouTube? I mean, it says it right here. Hateful and derogatory content.
Seriously, this loser that pretends he isn't a lefty gets offended by probably the mildest joke I've ever heard. And for this crime, for this hate crime, bird bitch thinks drinkers should be demonetized. Jesus Christ, because this isn't the worst precedent to send ever. Make a mild joke that some pussy finds offensive, and you should be demonetized. Gee, I really hope you haven't said anything that would be considered hateful or derogatory content.
And newsflash, black people kinda like hip-hop. Well, real black people and not the trash pandas that you know.
But let me guess, it's okay when you do it, and the people you agree with. Also, Eric July is a musician, who has multiple videos on YouTube of him rapping, so that's a lie.
I mean, you should have already been demonetized when I prove you slandered Isabella Merced with the false quote, as stated right here. But I am constantly amazed how you people continue to escape YouTube's community guidelines. You are the Osama bin Laden of the internet.
Again, this guy is giving me a splitting headache. Not only is he being a giant fucking vagina, but again, have you never done this? Or worse, lied about someone over and over?
This is the guy that blatantly lied about not liking Miles Morales because he was a token black ripoff of Peter Parker, when we have footage of him saying Miles is a good example of a non-token character taking up a mantle.
Do you like Miles Morales then?
No. Yeah, some characters have been written decently that are of different races and have suited up in the suit of a hero or a version of that hero. One of the more obvious is Miles Morales as Spider-Man. Morales has his own background. This is far better than just simply making Peter Parker a black guy. But Miles is an exception, make no mistake.
Integrity.
Now for the non-clip to hell version.
Some of these characters fill a role that is centered around a suit. As an example, you have different characters that have been Batman, and different characters have worn the suits of Batman. But we all know the Batman is white as hell, and that's Bruce Wayne. That's the iconic Batman. So if you up and depicted a black Batman, you're going to get some backlash. And yeah, some characters have been written decently that are of different races and have suited up in the suit of a hero or a version of that hero. One of the more obvious is Miles Morales as Spider-Man. Now, most of these types of efforts are forced, corny, and lazy, but at least Miles Morales has his own background. This is far better than just simply making Peter Parker a black guy. But Miles is an exception, make no mistake, and it will always be preferable to have another character with his own unique skill set, unique art, stop being lazy, and taking developed characters and making them of different descent for the sake of representation and diversity. I don't care in what timeline you make it, it'll forever be whack.
I mean, with that context, that doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement. But no, ignore that and just continue to believe Birdman, clipping Eric to hell. Not to mention Eric himself made another video clarifying this years ago.
What I'm going to mention here is Miles Morales, and I'm talking about, well, at minimum, it's at least decent that they didn't just take Peter Parker, the character, and let's say put him in a new universe and then just race swap him, saying that he's now Peter Parker and he's, let's say, biracial like Miles Morales did. Instead, they created another Spider-Man. It's a knockoff. It's still tokenism. And they named him Miles Morales, right? He's still Peter Darker. At no point do I say, and we're going to listen, no point do I say that I actually like the character. I'm speaking more to the fact that, well, that's far more preferable than them just taking Peter Parker and then swapping him, despite, you can make the argument that's what he is, as like they have a very similar like origin and all of that, but he's, at least his name's Miles Morales and not Peter Parker.
As stated right here. But I am constantly amazed how you people continue to escape YouTube's community guidelines. You are the Osama bin Laden of the internet.
I mean, how many people of YouTube really wanted to enforce this would be demonetized off YouTube? Just about every comedian. Again, I'm baffled, perplexed, dumbfounded. This guy hasn't been laughed off the internet. But then you think for a second and it makes perfect sense. This guy's audience is made up of pathetic losers like him. Politically correct, fragile, thin-skinned, twitchy little kid-gloved weaklings.
but the pussy kind of racism that the KKK employ. You know, hiding under bed sheets so they can live their lives in peace during the day while terrorizing black people at night. That's what these people do, only they've modernized the Klan tactics, hiding their racism behind hilariously weak media critiques that could have come from a Cracker Jack box.
You're a pussy.
You're goddamn right.
So I was in the middle of making a video of Th3Birdman's MCU video, but here's a little preview before I go.
And yes, with less than 400 million at the global box office and its theatrical run all but over, even the most die-hard shills have been forced to concede that Thunderbolts is absolutely a flop.
Aw, seems that bad take on Thunderbolts is getting to him, guys. I mean, leaning heavily into whether a movie is a flop is a weird angle, considering you're supposed to be a movie critic, Will. Your concern should be about the quality of a film, not its financials. Art should not be quantified by how much it sells. There are so many factors that can prevent a film from making money, including luck and timing. That's how you know you're not a real critic, Will, when a movie apparently failing is a point scored on your side. You're just proving that you're a culture war ideologue who has weaseled his way into this discussion when you should be just as derided and ignored as Ben Shapiro is when talking about movies. And I know what the pushback to what I'm saying is going to be. Sales don't equal quality. While this is a half-truth that only applies in certain situations, the point is quality is subjective in the first place, and the only objective measure we have is sales. Besides, it's a non-point anyway. Otherwise, why do grifters celebrate when something flops if sales don't equal quality?
So he's an idiot.
Yeah.